When Brian and I first got married, we were quite young. And then when we did, have children, it was great timing for us because my job really had me working long hours and not home as much as Brian was able to be. And so he was really especially as the kids started to get a little bit older, he was really the primary parent as far as the time with the kids.
Pam's normal and happy life was about to change.
Brian had worked a 24-hour shift in his job as a firefighter, and he was coming home, and he had taken his motorcycle into work that day. That night, we were all headed off to the cottage at different times. Brian had called me in the morning just before I had left to head downtown, and he had left from the fire hall to look at a kayak for me. He said, I'm gonna stop by there, and then, I'll see you tonight kind of thing. And I said, okay, I'll see you later. And he's like, I'll see you later.
That was the last time Pam would ever talk to Brian. While at work, Pam received a visit from the police.
I just looked at the police officer, and now I just said, is it Brian? And he said, yes. And what had transpired in the actual accident was that Brian had been driving his motorcycle southbound, and a woman just crossed in the path and hit him. And amazingly, he only broke his ankle, but severed one of the main arteries in his leg with the impact. There was an off-duty firefighter who had seen the accident happen, and he went over to Brian, so I'm told by him, and Brian, I guess, said something like, man, my leg really hurts. And the guy said to him, it's all right, buddy, we're gonna take care of you. And that was the end for Brian. When I was a mess, just a mess, we got about halfway home, and the fire chief just turned to me and he said, Pam, I just need to ask you to think for a moment, and when we get home, you're gonna have to talk to Graydon and Jacqueline. We come to the door and Jacqueline opens it, and we just went and sat on the green chair there. I just said, can you guys sit with me? And that, I can guarantee, has been the worst moment of my life, telling them about their dad. And definitely not just that moment, probably an overriding feeling that I had for a long time was, why didn't you take me? Because he's the far better parent, the far better Christian, the far better person. You should have taken me and left him with Graydon and Jacqueline. So definitely that day, and for a long time, it was still the lack of belief that this really happened.
Pam was entering another season of loss when both her father and then her mother, diagnosed with dementia, eventually also passed away.
I don't know that I would call it so much angry at God as this is horrible, and I guess I deserve this. And so people would say to me after my dad died, and then my mom gets dementia, and then ultimately she died, they're like, who has that happen to them? I'm like, I have no idea. I guess me. I'm not, it's almost too much to bear. I think before Brian died, I really felt I had life under control. Things were good. I wasn't being a great Christian, but things were good. And I can have a control of my life. And then I had no control of my life. And I feel like God was saying, you want to see who has control? I'm gonna actually show you who has control, because it isn't you actually. And that's where at one point, I yelled out to God that if you take Graydon and Jacqueline from me, which would be the next on the list, that I can't follow you anymore, because you've hurt me beyond what I can do.
While Pam struggled with her anger, God was revealing his love to her.
He has a purpose, and that he will use all circumstances, even the most tragic and horrible and sad. He's going to use this into something great. And I would, again, go back a couple years before, people could tell me that. I didn't want to hear it. And it obviously was God's timing for my heart maybe to be open to hearing what he had to say to me, and in different ways that I probably wouldn't have paid attention to before in a painting and in a book and text from somebody. Those were ways that wouldn't necessarily have caught my attention previously. And he used those to just cause me to go, okay, I think I'm in a different place.
Today, Pam is married to Kevin. She has helped him grow stronger in his own faith in God.
The fact that God, through all of my turning from him, everything, that he would allow me to be somebody in Kevin's life to help him, in his path with Jesus is just, again, it's just crazy that God would use me after I felt like I was not interested in anything. And so I don't know. I have no control over tomorrow. I know that, but I've seen how God has taken what seemed and definitely was horrible and taken those pieces and patterned out something that looks totally different. It's unbelievable. And no matter what has come our way, my kids losing their dad, me losing my parents, all of those pieces, no matter what tragedy we have, that he knows what he's doing.